SHMACKEMAGOB, it's Kiss Wednesday, and yes, a lot of you have been asking about, hey, talk about the A&E or A&E KISSTORY special, and I've been seeing the rumblings online. A lot of people hated it, a lot of people loved it. I'm kind of in between. There's a lot of stuff I liked, and there's a lot of stuff I was like, oh, come on, come on. But I'm going to give you a non-biased view of this. I'm not one of these people that, I know a lot of people accuse me of being a Kiss hater because of, my news with Paul Stanley of Kiss, doing stuff like that and bringing up his hypocrisy. So people think I hate Kiss. I don't. I love Kiss. But I'm not explaining that shit anymore because people out there get it. There's people out there that understand. I'm not bashing, I'm just telling the truth. So you people that think I'm bashing, just continue living your fantasy life. But I'm going to talk about, I'm going to mix it up here, the positive and the negative all the way through it. I love all this footage I've never seen before. Like the Peter Criss before Kiss playing nightclubs, I love that. And there was footage of, that Kiss banner at the end of, at the back of Kiss Alive, they show that. And just a lot of little clips. I remember I've had these pictures of a record store signing with this really hot chick. They're getting her tits autographed, and they had footage of that. I didn't know that shit existed. There were a lot of little clips, and I'm sure I'm going to forget some of it. There was some clips of Kiss without makeup, I think on a plane during the 70s. A lot of cool shit. I really liked it. I enjoyed the storytelling. Now, look, most of this I know, and I see a lot of people complaining online going, now they talk about shit we know. Of course. What do you want? What do you expect? Do you expect like a Kiss documentary where you don't hear things you don't know about? This shit is like catered to the casual fans. There's a lot of people that don't know the story of Kiss. So of course they're going to repeat themselves. I get it. But I liked it. I liked the editing. I like how they showed, different footage. Like when they were talking about the Elder, they showed the ship and all that stuff. I dug it. I dug it a lot. And then, the early footage, the early stories of Wicked Lester. Oh, Wicked Lester, they sound like, this band, that band, Jethro Tull, and all these bands. It was a mishmash. They copied too many bands, and Gene and Paul left the band because of it. And they wanted to start a band where it was different, where they would just copy one or two bands. Because Kiss has been following trends since the first album. I've said this before. There's a lot of influence from, a lot of bands. But Kiss kind of chased trends as it gone along. I'll give you an example. The first half, you have your Amata Hoople, your Humble Pie influence type stuff, and then, when they got into the 70s, you got Hard Luck Woman. Rod Stewart was big at the time. Christine 16, and then She Kissed Me, very 50s vibe. Happy Days was big at the time. Then disco, then Pink Floyd The Wall, The Elder, then, metal was booming in the 80s. They went metal with Creatures and Lick It Up, and to a lesser extent, Animalize, and then glam. I can keep going on and on. They stopped the trend hopping by the time, did they ever? I mean, I guess the last two Kiss albums, they went back to the roots when it wasn't, in vogue to sound like 70s Kiss, even though it's a far cry from 70s Kiss, but it's, it's kind of the map of it. Now, when they talked about Kiss Alive and they talked about how it was touched up, I have a feeling when they were interviewing Bob Ezrin, they cut out the part where he said, he's talking about, yeah, we had to fix up everything. But I'm sure Bob Ezrin must have mentioned, which he has mentioned in all these interviews I've seen when he talks about Kiss Alive, how Peter Criss's drums, nothing was from the studio. Everything on Peter Criss was on Alive was live. It wasn't studio work. And I'm sure he mentioned that and they cut it out. Because you don't want Peter to look good. And also that whole thing with, Peter and Ace didn't want nothing to do with this. So, they, whatever archive footage they use of them, they're not going to, say, that they endorse it. But, and then Paul has come out saying, well, they demanded money and they demanded, approval of editing. A, When KISS got together, and they even mentioned it on this documentary, on the reunion, Gene and Paul said to Ace and Peter, listen, we're going to reunite, we're going to make you guys multimillionaires, but Gene and I are going to make most of the money, not you guys. All right? So that was the situation. Hey, it's time to make money, let's do it. Well, now they're coming to them again, and they're like, fuck you. Give us the same amount you two are making, and we'll be part of it. And of course they said, fuck you. You know that's what happened. Okay, so who are we bullshitting here? So that's the main reason. That's the main reason Peter Criss was like, you ain't using Beth. Fuck you guys. I mean, you know, the whole thing with and I know I'm going to be going back and forth, where they talk about how Peter became, you know, uncontrollable after the reunion and during the farewell tour. Well, Peter says, even in the documentary, he found out Ace betrayed him because they were paying Ace more than him. So he was like, fuck you and fuck this tour. He had enough. I mean, he just had enough. So they brought him back because Aerosmith said, look, we'll do a tour with you guys, but you got to have at least 3 original members. So you know they threw out enough bucks for Peter to say, okay, I'll do it. You know, it's all about money. It's all about money with Peter Criss as well. Even though there are some albums they didn't really mention, they didn't really talk about Higher Than Hell, Rock and Roll Over, barely touched on Love Gun, and then later on, well, you know, and another thing, a lot of people were speculating they were just going to breeze through the 80s. Man, I think every 80s album was mentioned in this. They mentioned more of the 80s albums than they did the 70s album. I noticed, you know, but notice they didn't mention Sonic Boom or Monster at all. I'm not even a little flash picture. Hey, we did a couple albums with these guys. Nothing. They didn't even mention none of that at all. Is that footage of Peter Criss in the studio doing Beth during the Destroyer years? I think that was. Where you don't hear the music because Peter wouldn't allow it. But that's some cool footage there. Now, where it starts to get like really bullshitty, bullshitty, that's a new word, bullshitty, was when the second part had a lot of bullshit and also stuff they conveniently left out, like Ace Frehley. Like, you know, Ace Frehley couldn't take it, and, you know, he left the band, and then Paul drove out there trying to convince him to stay in the band. But they failed to mention that they had a multi-million-dollar record deal with Polygram that said, hey man, you know, if any of the 3 members leave, you're going to lose a lot of money. So they did their best to keep Ace in the band. They even put his picture on Creatures of the Night to fool the record company. That's a fact that they did not bring up at all in the documentary, which I think would have been cool to bring that up. It's part of the story. You know, it's like, man, we were struggling, we were going to lose a lot of money with Polygram, and we had to fake that Ace was in the band. You know? They should have kept that in the documentary. But what I thought was cool and accurate was when Bob Ezrin praised Ace Frehley's playing on The Elder. I think Ace did amazing on The Elder. A lot of people point to Dark Light because it's so shreddy, and it is a great solo. It's an amazing solo. But man, for me, Under the Rose, what Ace does on Under the Rose, that, you know, back and forth solo shit, that shit's amazing. I love The Elder. I know a lot of people don't. I'm a big Elder fan. And I love what Ace does on The Elder. And I agree with Bob Ezrin there. And with him saying there's, you know, some parts are masterpieces, something. But here, you know, everybody accused me of being a Case hater because I always, you know, bash on Paul and on occasion Gene. But also, Ace is my favorite, and I'll say one thing in the documentary that's pure bullshit. When Ace said, "No, The Elder's a great album. I just don't think it was a great album at the time. You know, it wasn't a good move for Kiss, but it is a great album." That's Monday morning quarterback bullshit from Ace. Because I remember back in the day, I read a lot of interviews with Ace saying, man, because of The Elder I left. And I remember there was a documentary where he said he heard The Elder for the first time and threw the CD out of his car, even though there weren't CDs back then. But he said the first time he heard The Elder, you know, you know, then again, on Ace's defense, being a blue Kool-Aid nut swinger, I'll have to say maybe he meant tape. But whatever. It's Monday morning quarterback shit for him to say that Elder's a great album, because he never said that in the past. But, you know, it's gotten this cult following that I guess he's trying to appeal. So Ace is, man, they all 4 are full of shit. And also the whole you know, Eric Carr and Vinnie Vincent, nobody was buying the makeup. You know, that's, you know, making excuses for Tommy and Eric to be in the classic makeup. Look, at the time, nobody cared about Kiss, period. It wasn't really the new characters. People were just burnt out on the makeup, period. Because when they took off the makeup, you know, they became... But here's the thing, too, that's a little diluted, too. I saw Kiss on the Creatures tour. I saw it at West Palm Beach Auditorium. It wasn't packed, but it's kind of a small, you know, it's a smaller auditorium type place. Wasn't packed, wasn't really empty. Then I saw him at the Sportatorium, a big arena on Lick It Up, which had just about the same amount of people that were at Creatures. And every time I saw Kiss in the 80s, it was far from a sellout. A lot of it, like, man, the upper areas were empty. And I know in some markets they did well. You know, they sold out here and there, probably Cobo or, you know, Detroit. Some strong markets. But here in Florida, and I remember seeing an Entertainment Tonight special, which is on my Asylum compilation that's on here that wasn't in Florida, where they were talking about, yeah, they're not selling a lot of tickets for this Asylum tour. But yet, they were selling millions of records. Well, I think Asylum, just went gold. Or maybe platinum. But still, they sold more records than people going to the shows. So, the whole thing of, oh, they weren't buying it because of the 2 new characters. No. They weren't buying it for the 4 characters. That's it. People... Kiss was dead in the water. Unmasked bombed in America. And guess who was on that cover? Oh, nobody knew that Peter Criss wasn't on the album back then. Nobody cared about Kiss no more. They dug their grave with Dynasty, which I love Dynasty, but, you know, with the fucking disco and all that shit, and then the new wave of British heavy metal, I know in my experience, being a Kiss fan in the 70s, I kind of like, man, I'm liking these bands more. Because this Unmasked shit, fuck that. I'd rather listen to Priest and Maiden and Van Halen. You know, that's what was happening. It wasn't, you don't blame it on Eric Carr or Vinnie Vincent. You blame it on lack of popularity and people sick of the makeup, period, at that time. And it's proof because when they took off the makeup, they sold a lot of records with Eric Carr and Vinnie Vincent on the cover. They just weren't wearing the makeup. So, you know, Gene and Paul, Eric and Vinnie, all of them are guilty with the makeup. Nobody cared anymore. That's the truth. But, of course, you know, Gene's going to spin it, and Paul's going to spin it going, no, you know, we had to take off the makeup because these new characters weren't working. No, the 4 characters weren't working. And the proof is the Lick It Up album. And there was a news report during the Creatures era where they say they only sold 75% tickets to shows. It was like, yeah, I remember seeing every Kiss show was like that, and even less than 75%. I know Lick It Up was less than 75%. And that's when, you know, the record sales boomed up, but still, they weren't really filling arenas. And I know for a fact, a friend of mine from San Francisco said they canceled the show in San Francisco and moved it to a small venue on the Lick It Up tour. So it wasn't just Florida. Now, there were 2 or 3 people that said to me, your larger-than-life documentary was way better. And I gotta tell you, man, I don't think so. I mean, I think my larger-than-life documentary had some more info that was, you know, that they didn't add on here. But I didn't know that Bruce Kulick auditioned for Kiss during the Creatures tour. I didn't add that in the documentary. There were small things that I found out on this documentary that I didn't know about. But, and I will say this too, a lot of people out there love my documentary, but there's a lot of people that aren't too crazy about it, and I'm more with them because it was the first documentary I ever did, and I feel personally the music is way too loud on it, and I can't go back and fix that. And here and there, once in a blue, I get a comment going, I can't watch this, the fucking music's too loud. Can you lower the music? That's the one I love. Can you lower the music? It's already uploaded. That's not how it works. But I agree with you guys. I'm not really proud of the larger-than-life documentary, mainly because the music is too loud. The rest, I'm fine with. The storytelling, all that shit, and the footage, the editing, I'm fine with. I just feel the music was way too loud. So, I'm not the biggest fan of my larger-than-life documentary. 2, I think I lowered the music a little more. I don't watch them, to tell you the truth, but I remember looking back on larger-than-life like a year or so ago going, God, the music's way too loud. You know, I wish I could have gone back and fixed that. And another thing, I said this on a million videos, but everybody keeps missing it. I wish on Kiss Larger Than Life Part 2, I would have said in the video, I am not making Part 3 till Kiss is done. Because if I do a Kiss Part 3 now, then people are going to be saying, where's Part 4, where all I talk about is the end of the road? No, I want the end of Kiss already. And then I'll do Part 3. I hope everybody sees that. But I know there'll be comments coming up saying, where's Part 3? And I appreciate people saying that, don't get me wrong, but man, hearing it a million times going, dude, I'm not doing Part 3, man. Not till Kiss is over. Now, they did talk about Mark St. John, but they didn't talk about, you know, his death that happened several years later. I don't know why. Maybe it's because it was drug related. I have no idea. And plus, the timeline's a little fucked up where Gene went Hollywood. You know, they did that during Asylum with all the glittery clothes. No, man. He did that during Animalize, and they weren't wearing glitter. He was still wearing leather and shit. That's when he did Runaway. You know, but I guess it would be convenient to use Asylum as the excuse because it was all glittery and bullshit, and they're like, and Gene is like, yeah, you know, I wasn't feeling comfortable, and so I went and did Hollywood, and, you know, I wasn't feeling at home with Kiss with all the glittery shit. No, he did it before the glittery shit. And boy, how many times does Paul have to mention his ear? I know about the ear. I've read about it in his book, that book that should have been called Everybody's Shit Stinks But Me. But hey, it is part of the story, and I do understand talking about the ear, but man, as much as he did, it was a little too much. And also, you know, when he talks about, like, well, when the band talks about, you have Peter was a pain in the ass in the 70s throwing drumsticks at the band that was standing in front of him. Hey, that is fucked up. I agree. I think it's erratic behavior, and he was fucked up on drugs. His drumming went downwards as the 70s closed out. I agree. I agree. Ace admits it. I was a fuck up and this and that. But I love the fact that Gene actually gave them credit. Paul did in a little, you know, backhanded way. Gene pretty much said, you know what, in the beginning, Ace and Peter were hungry. They worked their ass off. Where Paul was more like, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Ace and Peter. We wouldn't be around if it wasn't for Ace and Peter. But if Ace and Peter was still in the band, we wouldn't be around. Exactly. That's why you did a farewell tour, because you couldn't deal with these two anymore. So you went on a farewell tour to end the misery. But did you? Did you really end it? No, you lied to your fans saying it was a farewell tour. You went back on your word. Yeah, they didn't mention that. There was not one mention of, hey, you know, we did another farewell tour, you know, we lied the first time, you know. It was a farewell to Ace and Peter. No, it was not a farewell to Ace and Peter. That's not how you sold it. Gene and Paul went out there, this ain't no lie. We've never done this before. This is a real farewell tour. Just like Paul is saying, this end of the road tour, come see us in your city, because once we play your city, we're not coming back. They already played down here and they're coming back. But going back to, you know, how money fucked up everything. You see, Paul talks about how Peter became irate and horrible. Ace, they even, you know, had Ace audio saying how he was a fuck up. And Gene even said, and I was, you know, it wasn't drugs, but it was ego. I mean, it got to my head. Paul, what did Paul say? What was his problem during that time when they were all big? My ear.
Let me hear you, people!
Thanks to Tim Breen for that meme. I mean, the guy can never, ever, ever admit any flaws. Except for something he was born with. Which wasn't really his fault. And then when Paul says, I never left the band, so you guys don't deserve equal. But Peter never left the band. You guys fired Peter. He even said it in a documentary, so later he says, well, you left. No, Ace left, you know? And the whole thing, look, and another thing, I mean, Bruce Kulick did mention, look, Revenge didn't sell as well as it did, but they didn't really go into, we were bombing bad, and we needed to get the reunion back, because we knew if we were going to tour on this Carnival of Souls, we wouldn't be playing arenas anymore. So that, you know, and then for Paul to say, you know, oh, talking about going into theaters with the reunion tour, give me a break. You know the reason Ace and Peter came back was to fill up arenas, and it did. And then, you know, Ace and Peter were cool with it. All right, we'll do it. As long as we get a couple million, you guys can keep the lion's share. But then, you know, it kind of dawned on them. And I'm actually blaming Peter, more Peter than Ace. I don't really hear Ace talk so much about it. But Peter was kind of like, I want equal now, man, because, you know, because of me and Ace, you guys, you know, are making so many millions of dollars. I mean, that reunion tour, they grossed so many millions, and Psycho Circus, and, you know, and then the farewell tour, they were still grossing more. They were making more than Ace and Peter, and they got pissed about it. Well, Peter was the most vocal one. And I blame Peter. Hey, that was the deal, Peter. That was the deal. You want more money now, but that's not how it was when the reunion started. You were like, okay, as long as we make a couple millions, you guys can keep the rest. I don't care how much you guys make. Give me millions. You know, so Peter right there is to blame. You know, I stand by Paul Stanley of KISS saying, no, you're not going to make as much as me. You know, because I already made this clear to you guys, and you accept it. Now you're going back on it. But do I understand the logic of Peter Criss? Yes. I mean, they made so many millions of dollars more than them that they're like, you know what? You wouldn't have made all that money if it weren't for Peter and Ace Frehley. That's the truth. But it doesn't matter. In the end, you agreed to it. Therefore, you fucked yourself by making millions. Not really a bad deal if you think about it. And then there's the part where Doc said that Peter wanted the respect of Paul and Gene. He wanted their respect, and then Doc said, well, if you want respect, you got to earn respect. Well, I got to say, Peter earned Gene and Paul many millions of dollars, him and Ace. So, yeah, I think he earned it with there. So, yeah, they should give him a little respect, you know, for making them be multi-millionaires. So yeah, I think Peter deserves a little respect for that. And something they kind of breezed through, but I was shocked that they actually put this in the documentary, was when Ace said, hey, you know, Gene swore to his mom there'd be no more tours after this farewell stuff. And then Gene ended up saying after the farewell tour, hey, we got more tours. I was shocked they left that in there. You know, it's like, and at that time I loved Ace. Ace was like, hey man, it was a farewell tour. I took it as a farewell tour, you know? But then when he was with that Rachel girl, notice when he was with Rachel, he wanted back in. He was like, no, get me back in the band. That was Rachel talking. Because notice after he's been done with Rachel, he's not begging to be in KISS anymore. When they do ask him, he says, I'll do it if the money's right. But he's not saying, let me do it. And also the Tom Snyder interview, how Paul says Peter was laughing because he was loving the fact that me and Gene were pissed. And it's true. I even heard Peter talk about how he loved how Peter and Paul and Gene were pissed off during that interview. One guy online, I saw him write, you know, it was disgusting what Ace did. You know, it should have been professional and this, like this and that. Yeah. Staying professional in rock and roll. Out of every KISS interview, which is the most infamous one? Which is the one everybody talks about? Which is the one 99.9% of us love it? It was awesome. Ace was on fire, and not only like the best KISS interview, it may be the best interview any band's ever done. It was just a train wreck, but a beautiful train wreck. How Paul said it, I don't know if he said it during that part where you had to stop and look because it was such a train wreck. And I loved it. Paul, you know, you can kind of tell he's pissed, but boy, Gene, you can tell he was super pissed. And I thought it was awesome. I just thought it was great, man. Have the partiers over there showing, you know, the rock and roll part of KISS. And then there's the business part, there's the serious part, there's the boring part, and then there's the off the rails, crazy, why I love the original KISS because they were so fucking dangerous part. Ace and Peter. It was magic if you ask me. And then toward the end when Paul is like You know, the situation we have with Eric Singer and Tommy Thayer, it's like, it's perfect. This is how I always wanted it to be. We get along, this and that. Yeah, you get along because Eric and Tommy will take the pay cut and won't rumble the bleachers at all. And that's really how you want your band, where you get the lion's share with Gene, and those two are just paid employees. That's how you want it. But he doesn't say it that way. Oh, we're friends and we get along. No, man, they just behave. And of course, the old bullshit line, we're doing this all for the fans, which is partially true. There, you know, this whole end of the road, we're doing this for a celebration for the fans. We're doing it for the fans. It is partially true. They are doing it for the fans that have enough money to pay for these insane ticket prices, who have enough money to pay tens and thousands of dollars for a guitar and thousands of dollars for meet and greet. They do it for the fans that have the money to spend. That's the fans they do it for. And how much did they pay Tom Morello, really? Where Tom Morello says, they don't have to do it for financial reasons. Say what? Of course, they don't need the money, but they are doing it for financial reasons because it's never enough money for Gene and Paul. And there's nothing wrong with that. There isn't nothing. I'm all for capitalism. Shit. Give me millions and millions of dollars. I'll take it, you know? But at the same time, they're doing it for money. You think that Gene and Paul would do this not for money? Because if they wouldn't do it for money, they'd put Tommy and Eric in different makeup and they play small theaters for the fans. Financial reasons is the only reason they do it, you dummy. And that's it. I don't know. I'm sure I missed some minutia and stuff like that, but I just watched both parts once. So maybe I missed a couple things, and if I did, leave it in the comments. And everybody that leaves comments going, you forgot this, I bet you forgot some of the things I said too. All right? We all forget, man. Especially when you're old like me. But anyway, that's it. I enjoyed it. I did like it. It was better than I expected. You know, but there was a lot of things I did expect. You know, how they, do it for the fans and shit like that. I expected to hear bullshit like that. And, the whole Gene and Paul friendship thing, that's bullshit. Come on. They do it for the money. If Kiss didn't make no money, they wouldn't be friends no more. I'm sure when the farewell tour is over, unless they got to hawk some kind of, some Kiss memorabilia in the future, they ain't going to be hanging out. They don't hang out now. I've seen interviews where Paul admits that. He never sees Gene until it's time for business. That's not friends. Anyway, that's it. Hey, if you'd like to donate, I got a PayPal in the description below. And please subscribe to my channel if you haven't.
Let me hear you, people!
Stay frosty and schmack 'em a gob.